Okay, I suspect we are going to have a few more people still join us as we go, but we'll go ahead and get started, recognizing that everyone has busy schedules and they've put this in their calendar to be with us tonight. So my name is Adrienne Finley Odell. I'm the head of school at Roycemore School, and we're delighted to have you join us this evening. Here to open us up for our health and safety town hall, I am honored to introduce Kathleen Scheit, who is the chair of our board of trustees, an incredible partner to me and to the school in governance and fiduciary oversight and health and safety for the school. So Kathleen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Adrienne. Welcome everyone. To echo Adrienne's thoughts, I hope you're having a wonderful summer. As we prepare to begin a new school year, I would like to thank everyone for the efforts that are already underway to make it a successful year. These efforts include the ongoing careful work of the Health and Safety Task Force, particularly the medical experts from our community and the Roycemore team and board members who serve on the task force. This partnership has been invaluable since the pandemic began. We're very grateful also for the partnership of the faculty, staff, parents, and students who adjusted so quickly and graciously last year, and look forward to extending that partnership to the new families joining Roycemore this year. Welcome to all of you. Now, Adrienne will discuss our strategy for a safe, healthy, and successful year about to begin. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kathleen. I'm going to bring up a presentation to guide our remarks tonight. There we go. So for those of you who are joining us as a returning family, there are a lot of things that are the same as last year. So I want to start with what's the same, and then we'll talk about what is different from last year. You know, our health and safety task force was first formed in May of 2020 and was created with the goal of how we can create an environment that is as safe as possible for in-person instruction. We had a really successful year last year, and our goal is to continue to monitor the evolving pandemic and make decisions based on two priorities. The first is safe operations based on science. And the second is protecting to ensure in-person learning. I am deeply grateful to the two board certified medical professionals on our health and safety task force, Dr. Lakshmi Halasimani and Dr. Anita Shah. They, along with members of our board and Vicki Pickett, have served in amazing ways to help guide us through this pandemic and provided expert guidance along the way. They continue to meet regularly to review new information that we've learned about the COVID-19 virus, to assess how we're operating and to review our plans as new understandings and guidelines develop. And a great deal of information has been coming at us every day. And sometimes it's conflicting, sometimes it's different, but we really try to focus on, again, what we can do to keep the school environment as safe as possible to protect the in-person learning. We actually recently published version 11 of our health and safety plan. It is on our website. I encourage everybody to take a look at it so it is updated for the new year. The plan is organized around three key points: protect, distance, and disinfect. So under protection, first and foremost, masks will still be mandatory this year for several reasons. First, close to 60% of all Roycemore students are not going to be eligible for the vaccine this fall. Only really 7th grade on up are eligible. And we're not yet anyway requiring vaccination for those who are eligible. However, we are highly encouraging it. Vaccination is one of the #1 ways we can beat this pandemic. And I'm proud to say that our We have a mandate for our faculty and staff, and they are all vaccinated, apart from maybe one or two that have some health considerations that they are dealing with related to that. Also, we're still going to require masks because older students who can be vaccinated and maybe not have to wear masks before today's executive order. The older students are role models for the younger students, and the younger students will look up to them and see that they're doing the right thing to protect the community, and the younger students will also want to wear masks. And our community is our strength. I think one of the things that really was our superpower in this pandemic that helped us get through what we got through this past year, that was a lot more difficult for smaller institutions and more complex institutions. We have a very aligned community that everyone did the right thing. You know, they wore the masks, they practiced social distancing, they did the hand hygiene. When there were the travel orders, and they're still in place for unvaccinated people, they were following those quarantine guidelines. So that really made a huge difference. And I'm so proud to say we had no COVID outbreaks at our school this year, right? No COVID outbreaks, either in summer programs or during the school year. And that just goes to show that our mitigation strategies are working. We are also going to ask again this year that all of our families sign a return to school agreement. This is a health and safety pledge. It is on the parent resource page of our website, along with other medical forms. So you should go to the parent resource page and click on the back to school forms, and you'll see this along with other forms that are important for the start of the school year. Everyone signed this last year. We did check. We made sure everybody had signed it because it was a way, again, to align with what we said we were going to do to keep our community safe, and we get everybody on the same page, and it works. So the next is also our big superpower, and that is a wonderful screening tool that we have. One of our recent graduates, he just graduated in June, F.E. Zimmerman, created the school wellness screener that ended up being used by close to 40 schools all across the United States. He developed it for us and then made it available to other schools. And so every day before coming into the building, we ask everyone to go through the wellness screener as a way to let us know that they don't have any of the symptoms that could be connected to, or that are connected to COVID-19, could be indicators of having COVID-19. And we are also, the questions are all the same as last year. One of the questions in there has to do with your temperature. We are not going to take temperatures on the way coming into the building this year. This was something that we talked in depth about. We really didn't have kids coming into the building or adults coming into the building with temperatures this past year. And so that's something we feel we can drop, but we are counting on everyone to be honest when they are responding to the wellness screener, that they do not have a fever of 100.4 or higher. And if somebody develops a fever during the day, they will be sent home. So just know that. Also, something that's different this year, we missed our sense of community in the sense of being able to get together and see each other. So we want to invite parents back into the building. We're going to go into some of the details of what that will look like in early childhood and lower school. Obviously during the school day, we don't really want parents in the building because we're trying to run school. But, if you need to meet with teachers, if you're needing to pick up your kids, or there's some after school activity that you're engaged with, we ask that you go through the same wellness screening as our teachers and our kids to be able to be on campus. And also any paraprofessionals that might have come in the past, such as speech therapists, they will be allowed in again as well under these same considerations. The second strategy is our distance. CDC did change the distance from 6 feet to 3 feet, and that does allow a lot more flexibility for us. So our classrooms are configured to allow for students to have at least 3 feet from their classmates. And we have limited class size. We've always limited class size at any rate, but we continue to do that in order to fulfill this mitigation strategy. Where there is a concern about that distance, we do have plexiglass dividers that we can have up between students. So you may see that as employed as well. And the spaces in the building have been designated for the different cohorts. One of the changes from last year to this year is we had the multi-purpose room designated just for middle school last year. We had the library designated just for upper school last year. We're going to keep the cohorts separate still, but will allow different cohorts to still use those spaces, but only one cohort at a time and not mixing the cohorts. And that way, if there is a positive case of COVID in one of the cohorts, meaning each division is a cohort, early childhood, lower school, middle school, upper school, then we don't have to send more kids into remote learning than needed. Also, students that are vaccinated or adults who are vaccinated would not have to go into quarantine, even if they're close contact of a positive case of COVID. So another reason why we're really encouraging that vaccination, because it helps protect that on-campus learning experience. Also, Hand Cut Foods, our food service provider, will continue to provide contactless food service. So they will be delivered here. You will have an opportunity to order directly through Hand Cut's website, and details about that will be sent out to you. Students will also continue to practice silent lunches. They will either be having their lunches in their classrooms or outside if the days are nice. But recognizing that that's one of the times of day when masks will not be on when kids are eating or drinking, having silent lunches is one of the best ways to protect each other. And finally, disinfect. We did learn a lot about COVID and how it has spread this year. When we started out last year, we really didn't know a lot, and we were super hyper vigilant about wiping down desks and tables and surfaces all the time. What we know now is it is spread through droplets, and surfaces are not as much of an issue. It doesn't go away, but it's just not as big of an issue. So we will continue to be wiping down, but not in the same kind of intensive way, like right between one student and another student, but we'll certainly be wiping down between cohorts, after eating, drinking, any of those kinds of activities. And also students will be taught proper hand hygiene approaches. We've learned a lot about some very, very basic things about washing hands and how important that is. We still continue to have sanitizer in all of the classrooms and in the hallways, readily available for students as needed. So the student experience at Roycemore this fall, we are delighted that everyone is going to be on campus. The remote learning is an option. Well, it's still available, but it's an exception versus an option. And that's a big distinction from last year. Last year, we had these different enrollment options. We want all of our kids on campus. Teaching in that hybrid fashion for teachers is really difficult. and they're so hard on themselves if they feel like they're not reaching a student as well remotely, or not paying as much attention to a student in front of them because they've got the child remote. So we want all of our kids on campus. There are going to be some exceptions on a very individual basis, and those would need to be addressed to me or a division head. And also, if there's a positive COVID test or close contact with an individual or a cohort where there's students that are not vaccinated, they would need to go remote, and our teachers are prepared for that. They got very good at it, as you know. Even our pre-K teacher, Mrs. Dinelli, figured out how to entertain 3-year-olds via Zoom. Amazing. We had, I think, 3 or 4 kids that did pre-K by Zoom all of last year. So they're good at it, but they prefer to see the kids in person. All right, so I am going to turn over the virtual mic to Dr. Anita Shaw. She is going to share with you some of the other medical details of what has changed since last year. And from her experience on the front lines of COVID, actually, you can see she is joining us from the hospital. So Anita, thank you so much for your dedication and your support of Roycemore all the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. First of all, Adrienne, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak with the parents tonight. So as Adrienne mentioned, my name is Anita Shaw. I am a pulmonary critical care physician here in Chicago, the chair of the Health and Safety Task Force, and also I have 2 kids that are at Roycemore. I wanted to talk a little bit about our health and safety, guidelines and what we've put out. We've put out a very comprehensive COVID-19 health and safety plan that has been solely based off the guidelines. Now, there's many organizations out there, but we've based it on recommendations from the CDC, the World Health Organization, the Illinois Department of Public Health, and then the Evanston Health Department. And, we've taken pieces from everything, looked at the data. As Adrienne had mentioned, we used to meet weekly and figure out what makes sense for the school. Now, I know there's been a lot of changes in the CDC guidelines over the last probably several months. And I'm sure everybody thought that this pandemic was behind us, but unfortunately the Delta variant of COVID has put us right back into a situation where we need to be, masking again. Now, I know there's a slide up there. I won't exactly be following the order on that slide, but I just wanted to kind of share with everybody our thought process. So we've learned a lot during the short pandemic. As Adrienne had mentioned, we now have a better understanding of how COVID spreads. It's by droplets and particles from an infected person that lands in your mouth, your nose, or your eyes. We once thought that COVID could easily spread by contacts and by surfaces. And while it can, it really is only an issue if a COVID positive individual either coughs or sneezes on a surface, and then you go and you touch that surface and then happen to touch your face. So that's why we're really emphasizing good hand hygiene, especially in the younger children in the early childhood and lower schools, to develop those good practices. We are emphasizing universal masking, and I know people have a question of, well, masks don't work. There's evidence out there that masks don't work. And what I would say is that the premise behind masking is really to keep your germs to yourself. While it does have a secondary benefit of keeping other people's germs away from you, it really is to prevent your respiratory particles from entering the atmosphere. This is why surgeons since the beginning of time have masked while doing operations. It prevents them from basically sneezing into your body while they're doing an operation. So we know that masks are extremely effective in that regard. The other question I get is, well, I'm fully vaccinated, so why do I have to continue to mask? And that the reasoning behind continued masking has changed over the last couple months, and that really has to do with the Delta variant. Unfortunately, with the slow pace of vaccinations worldwide, really, the virus has mutated several times and has given rise to a particularly infectious form called the Delta variant. We know that it spreads 2 to 3 times faster. It grows more rapidly in the nasal passages of both vaccinated and unvaccinated people. But unlike the original strain of the virus, because it does proliferate so rapidly in the nose, both the unvaccinated and vaccinated people have a higher viral load. And so vaccinated folks can spread it on just as easily to the unvaccinated. We know that the Delta variant causes more severe disease. And really the scary thing, and as it pertains to schools and why it's so important to continue masking, is that we see that the Delta variant is affecting children at a more higher rate than the original strain. We know, as Adrian had mentioned, that 60% of the school is unvaccinated. So we just need to continue to do our part to keep our kids safe, and those who have, underlying medical conditions who can still get COVID even though they're vaccinated. We're seeing that even though you're probably hearing that they're about all these breakthrough infections for COVID, and while they are happening, they're happening at a much lower rate than infections in the unvaccinated. And 99.9% of people who are getting COVID now and who are dying from it are the unvaccinated. So it's similar to getting the flu or the pneumonia vaccine. Just because you get the flu vaccine doesn't mean that you won't get the flu. It's just significantly less likely that you will die from it. So we've used the data that we have now to really emphasize the importance of continuing our mitigation strategies for masking, for social distancing when we can. We will continue to mandate masks for kids outside when we can't have social distancing. So for example, for the younger kids while they're on the playground, we can't ensure, like, the kids want to play with each other. So we can't spend the entire time trying to, tell them to stay 3 feet or 6 feet apart. So it's easier for everybody and more enjoyable for the kids if they just wear a mask when they're on the playground. We'll continue to follow the Chicago travel guidance. Unfortunately, day by day, more states are being added. The benefit of being vaccinated is you won't have to quarantine if you go to one of the states on the travel ban list. Access to testing. Thankfully, there is greater access to testing. One of the scenarios in our health and safety plan is that if your child has a fever, that's not from COVID, that you have to prove an alternate diagnosis. So you either have to get a note from a doctor or a PCR test. Early on in the pandemic, it was taking 3 to 5 days to get a PCR test. Now many places are doing a rapid PCR test, which you can get back in 20 minutes. So access to PCR rapid testing has significantly increased, which will be helpful because that'll mean that there are less loss of school days. With regards to the outlook, I think, if we are just vigilant for a little while longer, if we can urge vaccinations in our community, if we can continue masking, hopefully, we can put this pandemic behind us. Hopefully we can get the younger students vaccinated by the end of the year. I know both Pfizer and Moderna have asked that the FDA has asked that both companies enroll 3,000 more patients into their study so they can look at things like inflammatory heart disease in children. Pfizer, from the latest data I looked at a couple of days ago on their website, seems to think that they will have finished enrolling all those patients by September, and they'll have all the data they need to potentially have emergency use authorization for vaccines for the 5 to 11-year-olds by September or October. And then for the 2 to 5-year-olds, hopefully by October or November. Hopefully that timeline holds and we can get the majority of the kids vaccinated before the end of the year. Our top priority at Roycemore is to provide the safest environment that we possibly can. No environment is 100% safe, but we just wanted to communicate to the parents that we are looking at the data every day and doing our very best to make sure that we can have another successful in-person year like we did last year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anita. I'm now delighted to turn over the virtual mic to Adrienne Floro, our Assistant Head of School for Academics and Middle School Head, who will take us through the start of the new year.
Thank you so much, Ms. Finley Odell, and thank you so much, Dr. Shaw, for that really comprehensive, understandable synopsis of where we are. Now in the presentation is the point where we pivot a little bit. Last year at this time, we were so totally focused on the health and safety aspect. And as you see, having this year under our belt, we know how to do this. We want to now pivot a little bit toward the excitement of building and getting back to our community, our wonderful Roycemore community. So we have several events that are coming up that we're really excited to share with you. And just know that you'll be getting a division letter, a welcome letter from your division head tomorrow through fax. So don't worry about taking any notes here. You'll hear and see more about that in your inbox tomorrow. But first up, we have a welcome for our new families that will be happening on Tuesday, August 17th. It's going to be from 5:30 to 7. It'll start with a brief presentation, and then it'll be followed by dinner on the terrace, hopefully under the beautiful stars and more weather like this. Following that, on Friday, August 20th, we have the Roycemore Family Association, our RFA, hosting Chalk Around the Block. And this is really a fun event that will bring everyone in our community out from 4 to 6 p.m. They'll be able to do things like have story time under a tree with our wonderful librarian, Miss Hilda, photo booth playing spike ball in Alexander Park, balloon toss, chalk maze. There's going to be a book and swag sale. Some of the books will be current books. Others will be quality books that are gently used. And certainly if you need some Roycemore swag, you're going to be able to get it that evening. It's also going to be a time for middle school and upper school students if they would like to drop off things for their lockers. A lot of our kids like to have the mirrors and the shelves. So you're going to get a link tomorrow where you can sign up for a 10-minute slot between 4 and 6 for your child to bring in their locker materials and get them set up, and you're invited to help them as well. And if we happen to have rain, hopefully we won't on the 20th, but our rain date will be Monday the 23rd. And just a reminder that the division heads each send out division newsletters. And that's really our time where we try to share everything we can with you in terms of upcoming events. So we take the summer off on that, but it will start up again for the year on Sunday, August 22nd. And you can expect to see your division newsletter every Sunday morning in your inbox at 7 a.m. So again, we really encourage all of you to be opening those and reading them. And if you have any questions, to reach out because we really try to give all the information that is relevant and pertinent and that you need to know. Our new student orientation, this is going to be on Monday, August 23rd. New student, but it also includes all early childhood and lower school students, as well as all rising 5th grade students to come. It's broken down. So for the early childhood lower school, if your last name is between A and M, you're going to come between 8:30 and 9:15. If your last name is between N and Z, you would arrive between 9:30 and 10:15. Our middle school session is going to run from 10:30 to noon, and that includes a component for parents. So we'll start together, and then the students will go off with the teachers, and I'll continue a little bit with the parents. And then the upper school session will be from 12:30 till 2 p.m. And then finally, our very first day of school is on Tuesday, August 24th. And just so you know, that will also be the first day of extended day program, as well as zone being available after school. And at this point, I will turn it over to our division head for early childhood and lower school, Darcy Aksamitowski.
Thanks, Adrian. Hello, I am Darcy Aksamitowski. I'm the early childhood and lower school division head. I am so excited to see you and your children very soon. While we've had camp in here, I definitely miss the beat of all the little steps. I'm kind of lonely in my office in this little section. So if you have not had the chance to be in this building yet, we are so excited to have parents back on campus a little bit more, as long as the health and safety task force were making and following the right procedures. But the early childhood and lower school are on the bottom level. What that means is that for our entry into the building, we do get to use the garage, which is a benefit in the cold winter months of Chicago. At times can be a little scary, but more about that. The early childhood start times, again this year, are staggered from our lower school times so that we can use the garage space safely and effectively and not block up Davis Street. So early childhood does start at 8:45 a.m. and ends at 3:30. For both divisions, there is the morning room, which is a free EDP room, starts at 7:30 a.m. So if you need to drop off on your way to work, that is always an option for your child. Since we are cohorted again this year, we have an EDP for lower school and an EDP for our early childhood students. Within the early childhood, whether your child is doing 3-day or 5-day for JK or pre-K, we have a couple of different pickup options at 11:45, which is the end of the morning session, or 1 p.m., which is the lunch bunch and recess session. During these times, you would walk into the table in the early childhood entrance and meet your child there. During our typical drop off and pickup at the end of the day, and I know this might sound like a lot of information, and as Adrian said, tomorrow you'll get an email and it will have all the information, and then feel free to ask me any questions at any time. But we do use the garage space, and it's kind of a service that we offer. So you will pull into the garage, the staff and faculty, myself included, will help your child get out of the car. We'll scan their QR code with the screener that Ms. Finley Odell talked about earlier, and walk your student into the building. Pickup is the same way. You will pull around, you'll have a sign in your car window. These things you'll get at orientation. We'll call your child out with our walkies and off you go. It's delightful. However, we do miss seeing our family. So a new addition on Friday this year is that all parents are invited into the building for pickup. What that means is that you will be doing the health attestation on a basis that we won't be scanning you, but if for some reason you were to answer yes to any of the questions, you would email me and let me know, and I will bring, or a staff will bring the child out to you as regular. We're very excited about this. So again, there's going to be more information for you to read over, and I will be able to answer all of your questions. Extended day is also always available from after school until 6 p.m. And that is a paid for addition that you can do day of or sign up for the whole year. And I think we can go to the next slide, is the lower school start and stop times. So the lower school, again, starts at 8:15 and then goes to 3 o'clock. Same thing with EDP. Since lower school gets out at 3 o'clock, they can be in the EDP room until 3:45, and that is free so that parents don't have to worry about trying to pick up a lower school student and then coming and picking up middle school student. So your child is always taken care of at Roycemore. Again, with the lower school and early childhood, Friday is a in-classroom pickup so that you can see your classroom teacher. You can pick up any belongings, sleeping bags on Friday for our youngest learners so they can go home and get washed, water bottles, everything that you were missing last year, you can do a quick check and take that home. So the early childhood and lower school will continue to engage in lessons within their assigned cohorts. As talked about earlier, we will be able to use all the spaces within the school, but stay within our cohort. So our students will go up to the library this year, which I know that they missed. Our youngest learners will be able to go to the art and music room, and we'll be in the PE and the gym and outside as much as possible. A big focus of our year, as always, is to continue with the social emotional learning, use of calm classroom and mindfulness as we practice our day, learning to be leaders with our Leader in Me program. And we are also very excited to have our after school clubs in lower school. So those will be starting on the 13th, and we'll have offerings such as Fitness Fun Friday, cross country club will be back, cross country running, it's great. Lego club for some of our learners, Odyssey of the Mind, and a couple different options. Chicago School of Music will be with us again as well. So we're so excited to have you. I can't wait to see you all soon. And I will pass it back to Miss Flora.
Thanks, Darcy. So some things are the same and some things have changed a little bit. Our arrival and departure times are still the same. The zone door opens at 7:30. And for those of you new, that's the gym side, the big glass entry. I am there at 7:30 to open the door. So if you have to get to work and you need to drop off your child, it's perfectly fine time. Some of our kids enjoy going into the gym and burning off some steam. Others like to sit and read, or they're allowed to be on their phone at that point, playing a game. And then I lock the door at 8:20. Preferably students are there before 8:15 or at 8:15, because that's when all the students are released to homeroom, our advisory homeroom, which starts at 8:20. So although the door stays open to 8:20, we really prefer if they could be here by 8:15 so that they're moving up with their peers to advisory homeroom. If you arrive after 8:20, you would drive around to the front of the building and they would go in the main entrance. And as has already been stated, we're not going to be taking temperatures, but we will be using the health attestation. Typically for our 5th and 6th graders, moms and dads that have phones will do that at home within 2 hours of leaving for school in the morning. And then we scan the QR code that we give to the students, and that will hopefully flash green to indicate that the family has answered no to all of those questions. For our older students, 7th and 8th grade, and really it's up to the parents, because some students as young as 5th grade have phones and are able to have this app on their phone. But our older students tend to like to do it themselves and answer those questions and fill it out. But either way, we will be scanning for that each day. There will always be a middle school faculty member to greet your student every day and do that scanning of the QR code or on their phone specifically. Okay, move forward to the next slide. So last year, we had to be able to transition from in-person to remote. We didn't know how many times that would happen. So we created a block schedule. So students had basically half of their classes each day, and we rotated between those. And that way they were having a deeper dive into their courses and fewer classes each day. Lots and lots of positives around that, lots of great research on it. One of the things we wanted to make sure is that the students saw their classes in longer periods of time, 3 times a week. So that's where we created a rotating block schedule. The students will all start their day in their advisory homeroom, and that's where we address all the social emotional, the mindful schools, the Leader in Me, 7 Habits, the DEI work that we're doing. So it's a really important time each day for the students to kind of land, get focused for their day, especially with our fifth graders. Lots of work around executive functioning and time management and filling in their planners. So it's a key time that happens throughout the week. And then as you see the color coding, so for example, if A happens to be, I'm in seventh grade and it's a fine arts class that I'm in. So I would have that class on Monday from 8:50 to 8:54 to 10:04. So I'd have it first thing in the morning. And then on Tuesday, I would have it after lunch. And then on Thursday, I would have it in the morning again. So one of the benefits of this rotating block, and it goes alphabetical, so there's that pattern to it, and the same pattern will repeat every week. One of the benefits is that the students will have their courses at different times. So students who maybe are a little groggy in the morning, or maybe they're tired at the end of the day, they'll have an opportunity to experience their courses at different times throughout the week. And so we're looking forward to seeing that because we feel that having that opportunity to rotate and not always have, let's say, your toughest class at the end of the day or your toughest class first thing in the morning when you're not quite awake will benefit our students. If you could advance the slide. One of the things we're really excited about in this post-pandemic era that we're in, this quasi state, is being able to very safely offer social and academic outings. It was a really big part of Roycemore. I've heard a lot about it because I've just only finished my first year. I haven't experienced it myself, although that picture was from the Shakespeare Garden when our humanities classes went there and performed their Shakespeare sonnet. So I got a little sneak peek of it, but we know that's an important part. We have a beautiful community in Evanston and certainly beyond at our doorsteps. And we want to engage the kids in that larger community and be able to learn from our environment and be part of the greater community, both in learning and in service. And I think this was already mentioned that, again, we are cohorting, but the spaces are now open. So we're really excited as a middle school to be able to get back into places like the library. And then, as Darcy mentioned also, we are back with clubs and sports, as well as continuing with Zone from 3:30 to 6 each day. I think Coach Long is going to talk a little bit more about it, but we are starting with co-ed soccer and volleyball, and the clubs are something we're really excited to get started with. And then I love this picture because we see double Dutch happening. And mask wearing is going to continue both indoors and outdoors, as that has been mentioned. But our kids have gotten really good at it. We may have gotten a little out of practice this summer, but they don't let the masks get in the way of their good time. So I know they're very resilient, and we're going to roll with what we have to roll with in order to stay safe and to stay on campus. And then just to follow up, our homeroom advisory time and lunch recess, that runs from 12:32 to 1:12, which is a little bit later. Because of that, if you know your child, if they get hungry, I would encourage you to pack a healthy snack for them to have, and they could have that between the second and third block each day. Weather permitting, we're going to be outside for lunch and recess. Last year, we asked the kids to all bring camp chairs. Many of them didn't like the hassle of bringing it out of their locker and bringing it downstairs, but so it's optional. But it is nice to have a chair if we're going to be outside. And as Ms. Finley Odell mentioned, we do have silent lunches, but we make the most of it. In middle school, we have the kids vote on what they want to watch. In my lunch group last year, we watched the entire Harry Potter series. So it might be vintage cartoons, it might be old television programs, Disney movies. The kids vote on it, and it's actually a positive experience. And when that's done, when our lunch period, so it's 40 minutes, we have 20 minutes for the kids to eat and 20 minutes for them to choose an activity. Some of the students, if we're watching Harry Potter or another film, they choose to stay and just continue watching that. Others may decide to go outside. Others may want to go to the gym. So they do have options in that time, but we like to give them off technology and interacting with one another. and just having a good time and hopefully getting outside and getting some fresh air. So at this point, I will turn things over to our upper school division head, Stephanie Rivera.
Hi everybody. So nice to be here. I'm so glad so many of you were able to join. I don't really have a ton of new information to add, but just some kind of reiterating some things for upper school. So yes, as has been stated already, mask wearing continues both indoors and outdoors. We definitely want to stay safe. I understand that, almost all of our teachers, almost all the students are vaccinated in upper school, but this sets a good example for our younger kids, and as the CDC is saying more, is important anyhow, whether we're vaccinated or not. But excitingly, student government events and academic outings will return. So we will have more opportunities to have some of our amazing student government events. These are, monthly, not necessarily every single month, but almost monthly events that our beautiful student government students organize. And they range from a bowling outing, laser tag, to prom. And hopefully we will bring back as many of those as we possibly can. So that's some exciting bit of news that I'm very excited for. So of course we are going to continue the cohorts as stated already, and then these other spaces will be available. They weren't last year, they were only for certain cohorts. So for example, only the middle school could use the NPR, but this year the upper school can also use the NPR, just not obviously at the same time as the middle school or the lower school. So that's kind of exciting as well. I know that seems like a small thing, but it's actually kind of a big thing, and pretty wonderful. Yes, and our after school clubs, our sports, and our activities are returning. So all of that is great. We are very excited. I know so many kids have asked me already about athletics and activities and the play and the musical. And right now we're planning on all of those things happening, of course, with all health and safety measures in place. So that's very exciting. Lunch runs from 12:32 to 1:02 each day. The dining hall will still be closed to upper school students. So it'll be much like last year. Upper school students can eat outside. They can eat in the library. They can eat in any classrooms where food is permitted. We leave that up to our teachers. Some are not comfortable, some are comfortable. And so we kind of leave that up to them. And of course, all students this year, all upper school students this year have off-campus privileges. So really the only rule is that students have to sign out and back in every single time they leave, so that we know that they are not on campus for safety precautions. We've actually, I think almost never had this happen, but if a student can't handle the privilege, we can always take it away. But for the most part, kids do it beautifully and they're back on time for their classes. And that's fun for them to get to explore Evanston a little, get some fresh air, and leave the building for lunch or for a free period to grab a coffee or just enjoy some outside time. So that's really all I have for you. And I will now hand things over to Coach Long. Woohoo!
Hi, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you everyone else on the call. I'll keep this brief so that we can get some time for Q&A. Like everyone else over the duration of this call, a lot of our measures for safety and wellness are the same as last year. We are happy to report that last year gave us a pretty good model of how to navigate through all this uncertainty. In terms of wellness and PE, we will employ the same exact protocols that we had in place last year: mask wearing, physical distancing, and while we know that surfaces aren't as much of a danger anymore, we will still continue to do our sanitation, our daily sanitation practices in between our PE classes. We are ready and resilient for any and all changes. Last year gave us a great scope into the wonders of Google Classroom. So we were able to design and redesign our content so that our students are supported at home and on campus and in person. I have some pretty fond memories of students submitting videos of their physical activity at home, some students shooting basketballs, some students going for a bike ride with their families or going sledding on a hill in the winter. So not only are the teachers prepared, but also our students are great cooperators and great teammates in this joint effort towards hopefully another successful school year. Moving into the side of sports that involves us going off campus and playing interscholastic sports. We are approaching with a phased rollout of our programming. So our upper school athletes will be going forward and having games and practices, something that looks a lot like a full season. We're still not going full steam ahead, but we do have some games scheduled for our teams, volleyball and soccer in the fall. Our middle school sports will continue to remain on campus and serve as intramural sports programs until we can feel more comfortable about some of the logistics regarding other schools and their practices. As always, our mission is to have fun, but do so in a safe and healthy way. So we're taking all of our direction from the IHSA, the IDPH, and the CDC. It's a lot of acronyms to keep track of, but really it's all driven by science and all driven by the powers that be. Quoting some language that has just come in literally just about a few hours ago. This is from the IHSA. We are planning for all fall sports practices and competitions to begin according to IHSA bylaws and conclude with our traditional state series conducted according to terms and conditions language by sport activity. Masking, we are recommending that schools adopt the guidance from IDPH. That Pritzker just announced an update to the Illinois Department of Public Health, all sports policy that will require masks to be worn for all indoor IHSA athletic events, regardless of an individual's vaccination status. So we are all in lockstep. I am on a group chat with other ADs, and we're in agreement that right now we're just so happy to have our sports back online, and we'll do anything to do our part so that we can preserve this very cool part of student life. Like Ms. Floral shared, I got a glimpse of it last year, and I'm really happy and excited to kind of step back into what is this quasi-normal state of school. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Finley Odell. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your good work. We're excited to get back on the field and on the courts. So with that, we're done with our presentation. We wanted to open it up for some Q&A, and I'll ask my presenters to come back on screen. And first, I just want to apologize for being a really poor driver of Zoom during Mrs. A's presentation. I was trying to answer one of the questions in the chat, and my clicking resulted in messing up with her slides. So what I would like to do is start by addressing the question from Katie Ravenhorst, which was, if remote learning becomes necessary, will the high school be first on the chopping block? Again, this felt very unfair and extremely detrimental to my teenagers' mental health. Katie, thank you. It is our intention to have all of our kids on campus this year. We do not have a phased approach based on positivity rates as we did last year. That has been removed from the health and safety plan this year. The remote learning will happen if there is a positive case in a cohort and students are not vaccinated. So like in the upper school, if the students are vaccinated, they're going to protect their status of being on campus, and that's a great thing. So again, great encouragement for our 7th grade on up to get those vaccines. Also, provide us proof of the vaccines. If you give us a copy of those cards, that's our proof. We need to be able to have that so that you don't have to go into quarantine, because we're on speed dial with the Evanston Department of Health, and they will want to know these things. Any other questions anyone would like to address? You can raise your hand or add a question in the chat for any of our panelists. Karen Houston. Let's see. Yeah, you want to come on screen, Karen?
Sure.
Or just speak?
I think I'm, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So we are curious about what the schedule is going to look like for the upper school. I know there was some discussion about block schedule versus what we had before COVID. So I know my team is very anxious to know what the schedule is going to look like day to day.
Yeah, sorry. I think that was a bullet point on my slide and I totally skipped it. I don't know what happened there. Apologies. So yes, we are doing a block schedule. It looks a little bit different from last year. I'll just describe it. So classes meet 70 minutes, 3 days a week, and it rotates through the schedule. So we actually have 8 blocks, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. We're adding an H block this coming year. And we cycle through those classes. So what that looks, and they're 70 minutes each with, I think, 4-minute passing periods. So what that looks like is Mondays will be A, B, C, D, E. Tuesdays will be F, G, H, A, B. Wednesdays will be C, D, E, F, G, and so forth, right? So it cycles through that same order through the 5 days of the week, which means that every class meets 3 times a week for 70 minutes at a time. There are lots of benefits to that, to a block schedule, obviously the deeper dive. What also it really sticks out to me here, and I've read a bit about, is that your classes meet at different times of the day when they meet, right? So if, let's say, your toughest class is geometry, I use that example because that was one of my hardest classes. You're not always going to have geometry at the last time of day, right? Sometimes you'll have it in the morning, sometimes you'll have it midday, sometimes you'll have it toward the end of the day. So that's really positive, especially for kids who struggle with attention and that kind of thing, because sometimes at the end of the day, your brain is just so full and now it's your hardest subject again, and that's really tough, right? So that's a real plus to this benefit or to this schedule as well. So that's what the schedule will look like. There are some weeks, as you know, where we don't have Monday, like Monday is off, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday's off for Thanksgiving, and we're fine tuning that right now, but we are going to work it out so that it's equitable for every class that meets. Does that answer the question, Karen?
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I had to count on my fingers, like A, B, C, D, E.
We have another question from Antoinette. Antoinette, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, my question might be a bit premature, but I was just wondering if there are any plans in the future to make the vaccine a requirement.
So Antoinette, we have discussed it. We do not have a decision at this point. Certainly at this point it's still under emergency use authorization, the EUA, and it's not even available for younger kids yet. So, of course, if the state of Illinois made it mandatory, we would follow suit, of course. Whether we would do that prior to the state, we haven't made the decision about that. Our encouragement would be just everybody get vaccinated, provide us with copies of that so we know, what percentage of our students are vaccinated to keep each other safe. And if someone has COVID, the others don't. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to quarantine. And yeah, is there anything else that you would like to add to that, Anita? No.
that was my only question, because I know, that some people are, hesitant about it. And I guess my real concern is more the percentage of people that will want to get it. Because, like you said, the younger kids cannot. So if the older kids are getting it, then,
Yeah, we're on a bit of a campaign to encourage vaccination. So I heard just recently that before the US made vaccines mandatory for polio and for mumps and measles, it continued to be a major public health issue. So, whether that's going to be the direction that we'll head as a nation, I don't know. But in the meantime, we're going to highly encourage it.
okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks. Karen has another question.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. So I haven't seen anything yet about wanting us to submit our vaccination cards. Is that coming, or how are we being asked to share that
So you
information?
can share that through the same email for any of your other medical records. It's forms@roycemoreschool.org.
Thanks.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Oh, Michelle, please.
Hi, I just wondering about the decision in terms of masking outdoors, because that does seem to be going a little beyond what the state and things is encouraging right now. And we're in the city of Chicago, and it's going beyond sort of the guidance that they're encouraging.
Sure, thanks for asking that question. Michelle, we have discussed this both as a team, an admin team, and on the Health and Safety Task Force. And, as Dr. Shaw was saying earlier, particularly with the younger kids, it's hard to, during that, when they're outdoors, they're at recess, they're playing on the playground and things like that. It's really hard to continue to keep them socially distanced. So the best way to support the health and safety for them when they're outdoors is the mask wearing. Now, for our upper school students, they don't interact that way when they're outside typically, and they have the off-campus privileges. If they're going off campus and they're heading down to get a coffee, like Stephanie said, they're going to be able to walk down the street and take their mask off, obviously. But when, even our middle school students, as you saw the picture from Mrs. Floro, they can't help sometimes themselves. They're attracted to each other like magnets. And the best way to support their health and safety is to have them continue to wear the masks.
Just to reiterate that, I know when we started in the height of COVID with our summer camp a year ago, I remember talking to the folks leading that, and we were really worried about the littles, and we found that they had an easier job with the masking and the social distancing than our middle schoolers. There's there's a lot of energy and excitement, and keeping them apart is, you just constantly be doing that and telling them and separating them and really kind of interrupting their fun and their play. And sometimes the on and off is actually harder. I think just kind of having it on. I mean, I find that where if I'm putting it on and off, I have a harder time than if I just leave it on with breaks. But again, as we eat, we take them off obviously to eat. And then, so hopefully it's not going to be a whole lot longer.
Right. Thanks, Michelle. We have a question from Charlie Jackson.
Hi, just a quick one. You mentioned for lower school on Fridays, you'd be able to go, to the classroom and pick them up. Is that gonna, how's that gonna work for kids in EDP, right? Because our kids are in EDP. Will we be able to, still head to their cubbies and help them kind of retrieve stuff, or is it gonna be similar to last year where we can kind of, you know, step in a little bit to the EDP space, but can't really go past there.
Darcy, you want to address this, please?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Charlie. I think that, you know, as long as we're being safe, looking at the health and wellness screener, you know, I think that if there was something you needed to look for at that time, one of our hopes was the returning back to being able to see your child's classroom teacher. I really enjoyed getting to see all of you every day and have those conversations, but I think the classroom teachers missed seeing you and having those conversations. So for a regular pickup time, the teachers would be available in the classroom. And so that was one of our hopes with that. Of course, if there is something that you needed to get, again, with being safe and looking at those screening questions, I'm sure we could work something out. Also, just to reiterate, with the Friday, if there's a reason that you can't or are not comfortable coming into campus at that time, you would just send me an email and I will make sure that your child is ready to be walked out to you as well. So in true Roycemore spirit, everything we do is a partnership. So if there's a one-off question, just reach out to me and we will make it work in any capacity. Absolutely. We miss you and want to make it the best experience for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Charlie.
really appreciate that. Thank you.
We have a question from Michael Allen.
Hi. So my daughter is a new incoming student, and
Welcome.
this isn't a health and wellness question per se. I hope it's okay, but I was just wondering, is there a place on the website that I could find out more about any kind of scheduling around after school and athletics programs? I'm not seeing that on the site. I was just looking while I was listening and just wondered if you could inform me about that.
What grade is your?
8th grade.
8th grade.
Middle school.
Finley's dad. I think it's a combination of Bothan and I both speaking to this. So we have ideas for after school clubs and there are things that have been available. Odyssey of the Mind is a newer one. Chess club, boarding game club. But one of the things we really like to do at the middle school is to find out what the kids are interested in and really kind of match their interest with our club. So we plan on having our clubs starting in early September. But we want to engage the kids and find out what they're interested in. So we don't have a schedule per se, but along with that, I think athletics will be starting a little earlier, and that's with co-ed soccer and volleyball. Kutchline, do you want to mention anything about timeline for that?
Yes, thank you. We are in the process of updating that. Our website is going under some cosmetic changes as well as some updates. And I can share now that our programs for soccer, co-ed soccer, and volleyball will start at 3:45 and go until 4:45. The schedule will be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Friday the 27th will be the first day of after-school programming for athletics at the middle school level.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you all. It looks like we have another question from Katie Ravenhorst.
Hi, I was wondering if a proof of COVID antibodies would suffice as in order to avoid having to quarantine if there's someone in a cohort that ends up being positive?
No, I don't believe the Department of Health allows for that. I think the Department of Health requires a quarantine or a negative COVID test. I'd have to go back and see exactly if they've updated that guidance. But in the current guidance, as I understand it, is that the vaccine is what allows you the kind of ticket out of having to quarantine.
Okay.
Okay, it is now 6:40. We're about 10 minutes over our allotted time. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening, taking the time to hear about the start of school from a health and safety standpoint. We so appreciate the partnership with all of you and Thank you for your continued efforts to keep our community safe and healthy and work with all of us in support of your amazing children. We can't wait to see them in less than 3 weeks. So please reach out to us directly if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks. Good night.